Welcome back to This Is What the Gospel Sounds Like. We are a K-pop Demon Hunters podcast where we are looking for all sorts of gospel handles in the music and in the story and in the characters of a great movie, K-pop Demon Hunters. And still, people are finding this movie and watching it for the first time. And I asked my co-host, Andy, to watch this movie. Andy, are you so glad you watched K-pop Demon Hunters?
I can't think of another movie that has changed my life as much as this one. Like maybe Lord of the Rings, but it's close. So I am glad.
I would definitely have to say Lord of the Rings for me personally. Yeah, Andy is my co-host. Andy, tell us a little bit about yourself. If people are trying to read some of your books or read some of your Substack, where can they find you?
I'm Andy Jones. I'm a pastor in the San Francisco Bay Area and also an author. I've got two books out right now. One is called 10 Questions to Ask Every Time You Read the Bible. The other is called 10 Lies Satan Loves to Tell. And as we're recording this, we're actually 3 months away from my third book coming out, which fits in the theme. It's called 10 Treasures of Learning to Pray. So I'm looking forward to that coming out soon. And, Sarah, you actually have agreed to endorse this book, which I really appreciate. So thank you for doing that.
Well, it's been really fun reading it. I was reading this morning and I got a little teary-eyed and a little chuckles and lots of Lord of the Rings in there. I haven't seen any K-pop Demon Hunters.
I don't think I put any K-pop Demon Hunters in. I did think about it, but alas,
No,
so it goes.
I think that's probably fair because I feel like even among my own students, I don't think more than 20% of my students have watched this fantastic movie. But before we hop into the episode itself, there has been some fun things that I have received from my students. And it happened around Teacher Appreciation Week, and I cannot tell you how excited I was. The voice actors of K-pop Demon Hunters were in Las Vegas at a fan convention, and one of my students brought his friend over after school, and he said, "Mrs. Crowder, I made something for you." And then they showed me this video. I'm going to play it here. Maybe we can make a better version, but look at this, Andy.
Hi, Ms. Crowder. I'm Ji Young. Thanks so much for watching K-pop Demon Hunters.
So nice.
I'm not at all envious, not at all, my goodness.
So I got a thank you from the voice actress who plays Zoe's voice, and how delightful that a student actually thought to share that with me. I was delighted and over the moon.
That is so
some fun
cool.
K-pop
Yes.
news. And then also, did you register yet? Because you want to make sure you get on the wait list. Netflix has announced the world tour of K-pop Demon Hunter.
Yes.
So you might want to hop over. I don't think I registered on the first day, but I definitely put my name in. I don't know anything about it. I have no inside information, but definitely something fun for the K-pop Demon Hunter fans. It's got to have a live component, I would think. If you were going to design a concert, what would you want to see as a fan?
As a fan? I guess it depends. Like, I don't know that they have enough music just from the movie to just do that. They probably will need to add to it with various other pieces by EJ and the others. But I think what I would want to see is kind of like a mixture of, songs by these people who are actors who got to sing for the movie, like their own music, plus some of the, obviously, stuff from the film, but sort of a mixture that sort of brings it together. I don't know that they're going to get everyone. Like, do you think they're going to get both Huntrix and the Saja boys to be a part of it? I think that would be tough, but I don't know.
Like that would be, or would it be like a Disney on Ice situation where you're seeing the movie like being played out by different actors and like using a voice track or something like that? Like even that level of entertainment could be fun where you get not just the songs, it's not just a concert, but like a bit of a storytelling on stage with, I mean, some of the performances that they've already done, you've seen like the video backgrounds and stuff have been pretty cool. And they even like for the McDonald's, did you end up seeing the McDonald's drop? They did How It's Done on the McDonald's Huntrix win, and then a live performance by the Saja boys. Well, live. I mean, it's music videos, which if you've ever made music videos, I've made music videos. It's never live. You're tracking it to the music. But that I don't know. I'm a fan. I'll be happy with anything.
I'll go see it whatever
Although
it is.
I'm not sure
probably.
how far I would travel. What'd you say?
I'll see it whatever it is. Plus, like, you're in Vegas. If they don't go through Vegas, I would be shocked.
I mean, they got to go to LA, right? And the question is, would I go to LA to see a K-pop Demon Hunters thing? Yes, I think I would.
All right.
But would I
All
go
right.
to, like, Mexico City or, like, New York City, something far away? Maybe.
If they're doing a world tour that doesn't go through Las Vegas, I just would be surprised. That's just me, but
But,
we'll
like,
see.
I bet you there's conversations about because a lot of people think Vegas is not a place for children. So maybe like, who's the target audience, and how comfortable are
That's
you as
fair.
a grown man going to a K-pop Demon Hunters concert?
Very.
It might be fun. It might
What?
be fun. You are the target audience, right? With the guys with the crying and the fans and all of this.
Absolutely. Yes.
I will say
Love
when
it.
I saw it in the theater, it was heavily child focused, which I think is great. Which is great,
That's
but
good. Okay. I'll see it wherever it goes. I'll find a way.
it will be fun. It'll be fun. Well, today, let's hop into our topic. We want to kind of take a break from some of the songs and dive into some of the characters and even
Mhm.
some of the side characters. Who are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about Bobby, who I feel like is a somewhat unique character in the film. Bobby is the manager for Huntrix, and he gets to interface with these three as sort of like, kind of like their best friend, kind of like their manager at the same time. So he's an interesting character, but he's one that provides both a little bit of comic relief, but also like keeps everything together as the manager. So I'm curious to see what you think about Bobby and where this episode goes. So what do you think about Bobby, Sarah?
I was so relieved that Bobby wasn't a villain. I
Mm,
was thinking about my first time watching, and you're kind of waiting for the villain to show up. I mean, obviously the Saja boys are like villainous, and Guima is villainous, but you're like, I was wondering if, if he was gonna betray them or if he was just like this solid, happy
hmm.
dude. And I was
Yeah.
very happy that is not perfect. He's not perfect. And I also love that. And I think that's why I like K-pop Demon Hunter so much is that nobody's perfect. They are all having these flaws and that makes them so wonderful and lovable. And I think that's what I love about Bobby. And plus, Ken Jeong being his voice, the voice actor is also extremely likable, I think. And so I feel like he's a win-win character. And I I feel like I want more Bobby in my life. I want to
Mm,
be a Bobby for people, and
okay.
I think I want to identify the Bobbies in my life because how joyful some people can be that bring this kind of hype into your life. Also,
Sure.
dose of reality. And so I've been thinking a little bit about how Bobby functions as this truthful encourager in
Hmm.
Huntrix's journey as musicians and how valuable that is. What do you think?
Yeah, that's good. He is a truthful encourager. The one thing about Bobby, though, that I think makes him not perfect is he is a little bit obsessed with the fame of it all. He's a little like
Mm,
addicted to the numbers and like how are we doing and sort of measuring value through that feedback. And when Huntrix, plummets in the rankings of everything, he really takes that to heart as like a problem that he has, I don't know if he would say caused, but it is definitely something that affects him and his value that this has happened. So he is interesting in that way where he is encouraging them. Like when they release Golden, Rumi releases it before everyone can rest. He's like, oh, well, let's go. Like just very fun, have some
right.
fun with this. Time to PR. But at the same time, he has that it's kind of his job. It's his job to be paying attention to the numbers, and the numbers might mean more to him than they should. So
Mm.
yeah.
Isn't that such a problem for us today? Like, as a teacher, final exams are happening right now. And one of my signs on my classroom door is I'm trying to train my students to not put their value in their grades. And perfectionism is a huge problem at a private school where the students have such a burden put on them to perform not just like well, but like a top level at a top school. And so I
Hmm.
try to always be encouraging them to not put their value in their numbers, but then here I am. I put in my one of my blocks and they had a 92 average and I was so happy You know what I mean? Like, it's both and in
Yeah.
some ways, because as a teacher, I do want them to know the material, be successful on their test, but I also don't want them to, at the same time, I mean, I had one student who was really having a bad day, came in late. The schedule had changed because we had a power outage. Like, there's a lot of chaos, and maybe they didn't perform as much as they normally would. And so then do they feel like a lower sense of value?
Yeah.
How do we live in this world where everything is being counted and measured? And yet at the
Yeah.
same time, we know that God sees us in such a different way, when our job sometimes is like, as a pastor, even like you're taking attendance and you're making sure that, programs and money and budgets and all of these things are real. I mean, Bobby's job is to make sure they're successful. And I think he loves them either way, but we live in this tension. How do we live in a way that's encouraging in spite of all these numbers?
That is a great question. I think part of it is, I think Bobby says this sort of to himself at one point where he's like, it's just social media numbers, like just trying to remind
It's
himself,
not
like,
the
this
end of
isn't,
the world.
yeah, it's not the end of the world. Of course, he looks out and can't see the Han moon that is being destroyed. It is the end of the world. But, it's one of those, he is saying the right thing. Like, the social
Mhm.
media numbers aren't the end of the world. The end of the world is being caused by something else. So
Mm.
I think that is something that we can just be reminded of when you have a bad test or a bad grade. It isn't the end of the world. And it will probably affect less of your life than you can really imagine getting this poor grade. And the same is true, in a church setting. You have a down week, a down year in attendance or giving or what have you, programs don't work. It's not the end of the world, and it's not where you find your value. Your value is found in Jesus claiming you as his own. Your value is found in things that don't change, in Jesus claiming you and saying, you're my beloved child, and that just simply doesn't change. All of the rest of the stuff that we are tempted to measure in order to see how we're doing is very fickle and very changeable. And, you can be encouraged by more people attending church, more people hearing about the good news of Jesus. That is encouraging. But when the numbers are not in that direction and the numbers are a little more discouraging, how do you remember that that the end all be all definition of who we are? It's a tough question. It's a tough thing to wrestle with. And no matter what, uh, you know, genre or job we have, it's a tough thing to wrestle with because so much of life is measured.
Yeah. Well, and I think about when we make mistakes, or like, Bobby, I don't think has done anything that has caused harm to Huntrix in their journey of their, band and all of this kind of stuff. They're trying to fight against the Saja boys. Things are tanking, but he still has an optimistic kind of outlook. I'm just trying to think of what is the gospel message that we need to hear for ourselves when we're feeling like things are tanking. I think that if we keep our eyes on the numbers are going to make us feel stressed out and out of control. But
Hmm.
keeping our eyes on the cross, the completed work of Christ, the finished job that of salvation is complete, and the arms of Jesus opened to us to bring him into himself. Jesus never changes. His love is immeasurable. His
Mm,
blood is so precious beyond any kind of value, that if we look to ourselves and our own numbers, we will have anxiety and anxiousness. But if we could shift our eyes from ourselves to the cross, I think that could be a good gospel reminder that that's an
sure.
unchanging promise that we have.
Sure. I think the other thing with Bobby that I found really interesting was like his character arc. Like they actually do a really good job, I think, of this. So like there's one point where they're like rehearsing, the Huntrix is rehearsing, and Bobby like has this really heartfelt thing that he's saying to them about like, I'm so proud of you and I just want you to know I'm here for you for anything you need. And then they're like gone because they're off, fighting because the Han moon is falling apart, blah, 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 blah. And so he's saying that heartfelt thing, and then they're not there. And then
Mm.
after everything falls apart, we see, Guima whispering to all these different people and telling them the various lies that they intake that are the hardest for them. And the lie that Guima tells Bobby is, you couldn't keep them together. You're all alone, but you don't have to be. And so Guima tries to draw him into the Saja Boys concert where, you become part of this thing. And it's not a good thing, but like it's getting at that aloneness that Bobby perhaps is feeling at the moment. So there's something about that I think can also turn us toward a gospel handle of, there are plenty of times when we feel alone in our lives, and yet we're not alone. Not only are we very often surrounded by people who really do love us, and that might be something that we forget sometimes, but we are not alone because Jesus has promised to be with us, and he keeps that promise. He is always with us. We are not actually alone. So any thoughts on that, Sarah?
Well, I mean, that's the whole theme of the movie, right? Is how the devil wants to isolate us from community. And this in this movie, and I think the gospel also is talking about the importance of community and for us to be together as a community and not separate. And there's so many things whispering separation of like, well, not those, like kind of tickling our ears of like judgment on others and maybe like separating ourselves just because of discomfort or for whatever reasons. And that the call of the gospel is the opposite of that, of joining in community and then recognizing that when you've been wrong, when you've done something wrong. I love you talk about an arc with him, is that he does fail in that sense. Like he's not just like this perfect hero. He gets sucked into the Saja Boys, and we all do. We all, because of sin, we all get sucked into that framework, but we need that kind of snap out of it moment where we get to hear that you're not alone. I mean, that's the chorus, right? We're not alone. And that's, we got to listen to the gospel and not to the voices in our head that tell us that we're alone. That's the message of the gospel too, is that we're joining with this great cloud of witnesses and all of these people that God have put into our vocation, whether it's like, I always tell my students, like, we're in this classroom. You guys didn't choose to have me this block. You didn't choose to have me. I teach a required class, but we are gathered together. Actually, I don't know if I'm allowed to spoil your book too much, but you talk about how the it's the large it's the catechism that God gathers us together. This is not a spoiler. It's just
Not at
Lutheran
all.
theology, but that the Holy Spirit is gathering us together into this community, and that's the Holy Spirit's work of bringing us together in our vocations and caring for one another. And we get to do that with people who sometimes it's not easy. Sometimes sometimes that happens that you don't get to see the full story of people's art arc, their character arc, or what happens in their life. But yeah, I think it's important for us to be Bobby people and think about Bobby as
Yeah.
the encourager, flawed, cheerful, encouraging, not
And
toxic, I don't think.
no, I don't think so at all. And I think maybe the other piece that you're getting at that's important is like, Bobby really wants to be accepted, right?
Mm.
And that's something that I think a lot of us, want in our lives. We want to be accepted for who we are and not actually be defined by the value we bring to someone else. And that could be a really challenging thing for a manager with a band, is to like, well, you're only as good as many tickets as you sell, that sort of a thing. So he does want to be accepted, and he's like sort of making that bid with Huntrix. And I think for us, we can remember also that we are accepted. Jesus accepts us. And as much as we come to him in flawed ways, in need of help, in need of forgiveness, in need of a whole host of things, he still does accept us. And that is something that is challenging because the world doesn't always accept us. So I think Bobby can help us remember, like, seeking acceptance is normal and good, and we actually have that acceptance from the person who matters the most, from Jesus.
That is comforting for sure. I have a conspiracy theory.
Oh boy, I'm excited. What is it?
Well, so when I was first thinking about Bobby, I was thinking like, who does Bobby remind you about in the Bible? Like, who's a Bobby in the Bible?
Sure. Yeah, in the encouragement sense.
Yeah.
I think I know where you're going, but I'll let you land the plane. Does that sound good?
When I was in Michigan, our youth group room, they had a house at Faith Troy, and it was called the Barnabas House. And it was always
Hmm.
just like the son of encouragement. Like Barnabas is this like encouraging figure. And honestly, we do a little bit of Acts, but I am not a Barnabas expert. Although we did get a dog and named him Barney from Barnabas. So
Nice.
like I have this kind of family connection with Barney the dog. But anyway, Barnabas as being like Paul's like encourager and also flawed, like they had like a little
Hmm.
falling out and this kind of thing. I
Yeah.
was like, well, let me look into this. And so I did two things today. First, I just did a quick little search on Bobby and I found a little K-pop Demon Hunters kind of Wikipedia thing.
Hmm.
A wiki, not a Wikipedia, a wiki thing. And it had all of like some quotes of Bobby and like a little bit about his character and all of this. And then at the very end, it had the etymology, not entomology, etymology, right? Is that right?
Sounds right.
Entomology is bugs,
Yeah.
etymology is words. And
Yeah.
I get them mixed up because, that happens. I am flawed. But anyway, I was like, is this a reach? It says Bobby is a nickname for Robert, which comes from Celtic language meaning shining bright. And I was like, golden, shining, like, did they
Mm-hmm.
maybe choose Bob? But I'm like, Bobby's just kind of like a fun name. Like, they probably didn't like choose it by looking at the etymology or whatever. I was trying to dig up some more like background on Barnabas, and so I went to 1517. They have a really good search engine of like articles and stuff, and I found a Christian History Almanac article that Dan Van Voorhis did about the saint day of Barnabas, and this longest day and shortest night of June 11th. Barnaby bright, the longest day and the shortest night is like this line that goes through. And that Barnabas and Barnaby Bright comes from this idea that Barnabas' name also has to do with this shining light. And I was like, well, that's pretty strange that both of these names, Bobby and Barnabas, have this light connection and this
Hmm.
kind of shining the light in the darkness and this kind of hopeful encouragement that is shared with others, kind of maybe being a light in the darkness or like a guiding light. I think he's trying to kind of be a guiding light. Barnabas, I think in the Bible is this kind of encourager for Paul, and and he also is flawed like we all are. I don't
Hmm.
know. I
Hmm.
guess I just like this kind of light connection. We do have to give a shout out to one of our podcast listeners who recommended us to dig into some of the screenwriters who maybe
Hmm.
have a Roman Catholic background. Maybe these screenwriters had some ideas about Bobby and Barnabas and this kind of encouraging presence in the movie. I hope he never had like a dark arc. And I really like that, just
Yeah.
like a cheerful character. But tell me, Andy, think about people in your own life
Hmm.
who are like that shining light, like Barnabas was for Paul or like Bobby was for Huntrix. What does that look like? And how meaningful are those kinds of people?
Super meaningful. Like, I just think about like the different times when I come across a pastoral problem that I don't know what to do with. And
Mm.
there's a few people that I'm able to, you know, call and just talk through like, this is what's happening, help me out here. And they're usually able to keep me focused on what's important. That's good. And to be that sort of reminder of, it's just fill in the blank, it's not the end of the world, that sort of Bobby line. So yeah, I've got a few of those that I appreciate. One of them just so happens to be named Bob, which I think is, ironic, perhaps maybe the
It's
opposite
good,
of
right?
ironic.
Shining light.
Yeah, so that's good to have a Bob in your life, a Bobby, a Robert, etc.
Mhm.
is a good thing. Yeah, who would you say is that for you?
So randomly, well, I don't think it was random. I'm going to take that back. This morning, I was walking
Hmm.
in the hallways thinking about Bobby and I had just done that little search. And I saw one of my students who already took her final. She went to that fan expo also and gave me a sticker from from the fan expo, and I just saw her and she smiled, and she's one of these students who make eye contact. If you're a student wondering how to make a good impression with your teachers, literally all you have to do is make eye contact when they're talking, and the teachers just feed off that positive energy. Like, but she's a fantastic student, a very good theological thinker. She's also like always paying attention in class. And so I just said, "Hey, I was just thinking we're going to do a podcast about Bobby, and I'm thinking that you are a Bobby for me. You are always so encouraging and listening in class. I just want to tell you that." And I felt very like true.
Hmm.
Like, I think a lot of my students, when they kind of are, I'm doing this really hard, weird thing with the PhD, and a lot of them will ask me about it. Different people will kind of just be interested and ask and encouraging. Super
Hmm.
huge. One of my Bobbies is someone I've never met, my godfather. I never have met, he was my dad's roommate in college at Concordia St. Paul. And he wrote me I know he prays for me all the time.
Hmm.
And we've been friends on Facebook, and he wrote me a really nice long letter on my graduation from high school. And ever since I've started my PhD, I don't know. I feel like he has notifications on for me. I feel like every time I post an update, he's the first one to give me like the praying hands emojis or some
Sure,
sort
sure.
of encouragement. And it's just nice because it can feel lonely. But that's why I like to share things about PhD on social media, because I feel like it can be very isolating. And I know that's not good for me. And I know that I need that. So I kind of am like, can you help
Yeah,
me celebrate this little win?
for
And
sure, for
so
sure.
those are two Bobbies for me. How about you?
Yeah, love it. That's good. Yeah, I think when it comes to like celebrating little moments, like literally, I think I acknowledge my wife for doing this in one of my books, where it's just like she's taught me how to celebrate, um, to hold on to those moments where it's like, I wrote about this not that long ago with. Publishing a book is just so different than most things because it's such a drawn out process of little moments of success. And when have you actually written the book is always an interesting question. Is it written after the first draft, the eighth draft? Once it passes through, which phase is it written? And most of the work of a book in the actual writing of it is done so early. And then you get the book so much, months after you've actually put in most of the hard work, that it's just a very odd feeling. And so my wife has been very good about like, okay, we've passed this stage, celebrate this stage. We've passed another stage, celebrate this stage. And it's usually, nothing, you know, spectacular. It's, go out to dinner, open a bottle of wine, whatever it happens to be. But just making sure you mark each of those moments with that sense of you've done something that was challenging and difficult and it's worth celebrating. So yeah, she's obviously number one for me in the encouragement level. I mean, there's lots of people. Obviously, Sarah, you are one of those people for me. So thank you
Aw,
for that. But
but
yeah,
and same. It's nice to have someone you can fan out with, and also get deep into the theology too. And I'm thinking theologically here about how do we avoid the trap of like a toxic positivity? Because I'm thinking in
sure.
my mind
Yeah.
of how I wanna be a Bobby. So thank you for saying that. That
Yeah.
fills
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
bucket. I wanna be that person, but I also don't
Yeah.
wanna. Okay, my brain is kinda wild right now. Let's bring it in. A book, you're right, there's all these processes, but, like, really it's for the other person, right? When the reader reads the
Hmm.
book,
Yeah.
right? Like, that's what gotta be the important moment too, when I'm thinking about K-pop Demon Hunters and the performance of the music, like the song that they're
Sure.
trying to write. When is the song done? Not
Yeah.
until they sing it for the audience
Sure.
and it's
Sure.
connecting
Yep.
with people.
Yep.
And so there's this kind of how do you be a Bobby in a way that's not a toxic positivity? It's for the benefit of the person. And so I could decide, oh, I got my lanyard and my suit jacket, and I'm just gonna go encourage people. But unless it's really for their benefit, and if I'm
Mm.
just trying to feel like I'm putting Bobby on, I really have to know who I'm talking to and be genuine about that.
Hmm.
I'm not trying to make it too law oriented, but I'm just trying to think about how, when we're thinking about this idea of encouraging, how much more meaningful it lands when it's true.
Right.
When it's true and that's where the gospel is, when it's
Right.
this true caring and knowing of another person and giving them what they need at that time and celebrating those small things, but doing it in a way that's honest. Does
Yeah,
that make
I
sense?
gotcha. If can it really be encouragement if it's not truthful? Like,
Yeah, what is
is there
that?
a
Like
different word for
vanity,
that?
right? It's just kind of empty.
Yeah, there's like a sugar something to it. Like you're just sort of, puffing people up. It's fluff. It's not
Yeah,
real.
yeah.
And so it does have to be true. And I think we can get caught in that, right? Like when someone's having a hard day, one of the easiest things to say to them is something like, it's okay. Like, and try to remind them of something that's really not important. Like I get caught in that sometimes where what I'm offering to someone isn't actually encouragement. It's just like this,
Band-aid or like,
I just want you to feel better so I don't have to deal with your anxiety. And that's not really encouragement, right? It's more trying to like cover up whatever feeling is there. Whereas
mm,
true encouragement like sits in the struggle with them and understands it and offers reality that is encouraging. It's not
mm.
just covering it up with something that isn't helpful, but it sits with them through the struggle and gives them encouragement towards what is true, what is right, what is good, what is beautiful.
It's so silly, but it's like this small moment, but I feel like it gets me every time in the movie, and it's when they're practicing Golden and Bobby's there dancing next to the camera.
Yeah.
Like, he's in it with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, he's not just showing up and saying, "Good job." He's with them, and I think that's where the reality and the honesty comes in, is that he's not just showing up and saying, "Good job." He's actually going on the journey with them and, like, going through the struggle with them. And so to offer that real kind of encouragement, it looks like and it sounds like actually being uncomfortable in those uncomfortable moments and being present in those moments and not just trying to offer like a star sticker of achievement, but like actually struggling with the people or noticing, hey, that's not okay. Like, are you okay? Because it seems like I'm watching and I'm with you. And that's the comfort of the gospel, right? That's spoiler alert, our final exam is talking about Matthew 28 and how Jesus promises that he's with us, right? That he's ascended, but he is with us. And so the good encouragement that we have from our Savior is that he understands our pain and our journey in a way even deeper than Bobby. Can you imagine this
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of support that we have? But it means not a superficial surface thing, but like I was gonna say real presence, but, like, you know what I mean, like,
Yeah. Yeah. A true presence.
I know, but now I feel like I'm mixing my uh,
You're good.
it's a theology of the cross, that God is present with us in our sufferings,
Yes.
and that he has this deep understanding of the realities that we face. He has been tempted in every way that we have, yet without sin. And so this Savior that we have is such an encouragement because he has given us all that we need for our salvation and now encourages us to share that love with others. That sounds like gospel to me.
I agree. I love it.
Awesome. Well, this was so much fun. Thank you so much, Andy, for talking about Bobby and for being in a Bobby. And let's encourage our listeners to be a Bobby in a real way, sit in people's in their situation and give good encouragement. And we have more to talk about it. Please share if you have someone in your life who is a Bobby. Let them know about that. Maybe share an episode or write a comment or whatever you can do. And because we're having fun and we're glad that you're having fun with us. And that is what the gospel sounds like.